Nigerians can rest assured that I remain committed to seeing this process to a logical conclusion before the end of my tenure in office.
President Buhari lauds Kogi state government on legacy projects, says Ajaokota still to be concessioned to an investor.
Diverted and sold allegedly by certain individuals who were in government.
House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee commences investigation on crude oil theft, vows to uncover economic saboteurs.
Justice for late barrister Bolanle Rahim gets louder. Lagos State Governor appeals for thorough investigation.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss management of ecological funds.
The rains are over for the season, and the dry wind from the savannah is sucking up the lands to dry. But if wishes were horses, perhaps some would embrace the dryness for a longer time, as the fear of excess water and heavy rainfall resulting to flooding makes many apprehensive.
Sure, Henry. Each year Nigeria experiences a magnitude or a plethora of disasters that cripple economic activities due to flooding. Just the flooding, Henry. There are other natural occurrences, such as landslide, desertification, gully erosion, and man-made deforestation.
Very true. But in Nigeria, flooding is a major issue that has caused a lot of concern in so many quarters. And a stitch in time is supposed to salvage situations. But in Nigeria's case, not heeding several early warnings and predictions from relevant agencies and authorities leave states vulnerable to the menace of flooding with trails of losses.
Now, the 2022 flooding was described as the worst in a decade, with about 33 states and the FCT experiencing devastation in various dimensions and magnitude.
A sad tale indeed, with farmlands washed away, people rendered homeless, confused and desolate, with the situation appearing precarious as the effects are still felt in some affected communities.
The Nigerian government is indeed worried about the incessant occurrences, and Nigerians are numbed by the pain over the years. But one question remains very relevant. Where are the ecological funds?
And as part of its responsibility to its people, the federal government disburses or provides ecological funds to state governments and management agencies to address the multifaceted ecological challenges on mitigating issues like flooding.
And this mandate was instituted in 1981, but some sections of the public and civil society groups claim that the utilization of the funds from 2012 to 2022 indicate a non-optimal performance according to the purpose for its establishment.
And based on what is obtainable in the extant procurement law, the accruable funds are usually managed by an Ecological Fund Management Committee within the Ecological Project Office, that's the EPO. And since 2015, reports say the EPO has gone through structural and operational reviews for effective service delivery.
All right, we're yet to see the result. But however, data from the Federation Account Allocation Committee shows that between 2012 and 2021, Nigeria set aside about 548 billion naira for the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT for ecological intervention. But the required impact seems to be in question following the level of devastation of this year's flooding that affected about 1.3 million Nigerians.
And the question is, why are the gaps not being filled? What is happening to the ecological funds? What is the Ecological Project Office doing about these anomalies? And what are the apparent challenges to realizing its goal? And are there workable implementation to ensure the funds are properly utilized? Now, these questions and issues we shall attempt to unravel as we shed the spotlight on Nigeria's first line of response, talking about the Ecological Fund, with the topic Management of Ecological Funds. It is the last edition for the year 2022. I am Yenre John.
And I am Kirian Umayo, joining Yenre this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you live on the network service of the NTA. And as always, we're going to be serving you other segments that will form today's package. Of course, you know them: newspaper review, business, and others. For now, let's get news highlights from Farmer Pie. Hello, Farmer. Good morning.
Good morning, Kieran. Good morning, Yenre. Good morning, Nigerians. And here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari says all legal disabilities arising from the local and international commercial disputes inhibiting the takeoff of the Ajaokuta Steel Company have been dismantled as his administration sustains efforts towards repositioning Kogi for a prosperous future as an industrial hub. Speaking at the Palace of Ohinoyi of Ibraland in Okene during an official visit to the state, the president said Ajaokuta is now ready for concessioning to an investor with the right profiles to put it to work for the nation's economic well-being.
From all the commissions so far, and those that will continue to commission for us, are a promise made and a promise kept.
I consider any money well spent as we move closer to achieving our objective of transforming Kogi State into Nigeria's iron and steel powerhouse.
The House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee investigating alleged illegal export and sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil in 2015 has vowed to uncover and expose those behind this act of economic sabotage. The committee is also investigating crude oil exports from 2014 to date.
Diverted and sold allegedly by certain individuals who were in government, who were in the nation's oil corporation, who were in the security agencies, and who were also cronies of those in authority.
The push for justice over the killing of a lawyer, Bolanle Rahim, is getting stronger. The latest is the request by the Lagos state government to get the case diary from the police to take over the prosecution. The request was made when the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, visited the Inspectors General of Police in Abuja.
Essentially is really to continue to work with the police, the things that we can do, around providing some additional, equipment and improve, public, and police communication.
I assure you there is not going to be any hanky-panky on the issue.
Meanwhile, the Police Service Commission has approved the suspension of ASP Drambi Vandi over the death of Bolanle Rahim on Christmas Day in Aja area of Lagos State with immediate effect. Imo State Police Command has paraded the operational commander and chief trainer of the prescribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, and Eastern Security Network members. The command's Police Public Relations Officer Michael Abatam says the suspect, who was a Lance Corporal Army deserter, confessed to killing many prominent Nigerians, including late APC chieftain Ahmed Gulak.
Participated and led various killings of security personnel, attacks on INEC office, burning of police stations, murder of innocent people, armed robbery, kidnapping, terrorism. His high authority directed him to go and kill Ahmed Gulak.
And on judiciary, a high court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting in Abuja has barred the Department of State Services (DSS) from inviting, arresting, detaining, or charging the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, with terrorism, financing, and economic crime. The presiding judge, Justice Mariam Hassan, gave the order in Abuja this Thursday. The interim order was issued in a suit filed by the Forum for Accountability and Good Leadership to enforce the fundamental human rights of the CBN governor. On politics, the newly appointed Director General of Obida Tea Presidential Campaign Council, Akin Osukotokun, has promised supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate that he has the required experience to lead the campaign to victory come February 2023. This was while briefing newsmen on his first day at work at the Presidential Campaign Secretariat, Abuja.
Under my leadership, they are going to get the optimum, maximum attention and respect that they deserve.
Tinubu Shetima Network Political Support Group has activated plans to boost the support of the APC presidential candidate and demonstrate commitment towards electoral victory come February 2023. Abuja, the nation's capital, played host to the members of the group from across the country for a strategic engagement.
This is not about playing politics of convenience. It is about playing politics of principles and what is suitable for a plural country to succeed. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu's aspiration is appealing. He is well grounded to lead the country.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, has constituted an independent grassroots campaign council for Atiku Okowa 2023 presidential campaign. In a statement, the presidential candidate appointed Ambassador Fatima Mohammed Goni from Borno State as chairperson of the council. The statement added that Helen Effiong, a legal practitioner from Cross River State, is Deputy National Chairman, while Jamila Mohammed Kashim from Kogi State serves as Secretary. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Yere and Kiran after this break. Do stay with us.
The people they shout. We want our country people they talk with one voice. Them say na Asiwaju Bola Tinubu them want as president of Nigeria for this president election.
Asiwaju Bola Tinubu na the man where we all know and see all the good work in they do for the country, especially when him be governor of Lagos State.
Now him God use turn Lagos to the best state for Nigeria.
Today, many people all over Nigeria they like to go Lagos, go settle down for business and better life.
All because of the good work when Bola Tinubu do.
People of Nigeria, as Asiwaju do for Lagos, now so him ready to do am for the whole country.
Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party wey get broom.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. It's great value. It protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise. Remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
As we close a successful year 2022 and prepare for the start of a better year 2023, the Nigeria Television Authority, NTA, wishes to appreciate and share the love with all who gave us a year to remember for good. The three arms of government, ministries, departments and agencies, corporate bodies and advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups and political parties. Most importantly, you, our esteemed viewer. We say thank you. Together, we made 2022 great. Let's make 2023 greater. Once again, we say thank you, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year from all of us at the NTA. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Up next is business news with Alika Okpanachi Arawa.
With just a few days to the end of the year, many Nigerians want the issues of food shortage and the rising inflation addressed in 2023. They are quite categorical that the economic outlook for next year will be favorable if policies and programs of government are appropriately implemented.
The truth is that right now you don't go to market with budgets because you might budget something and when you come it's different from what you budgeted.
Maybe government has to look at some of these middlemen. Why guys, I know democracy does not allow for regulation of price in most cases, but then we have to look at the possibility of ensuring that the price of goods are reasonable enough.
A development economist, Dr. Emeka Okengo, emphasized that economic managers should re-engineer some programs that will make farmers achieve bumper harvest.
It's now time for us to get innovative, begin to now look for strategies, first and foremost, to deal with the most critical challenge we have, which is food insecurity. Our dams are there. I don't see why we cannot apply them. Okay, our resource centers are there. We have 36 bioresources centers in Nigeria. It is time for us to now begin to now, commercialize their outputs. All right, we have 6 innovation centers around the country that's been selected, by the Ministry of Science and Technology. I think it's time it stopped being a government program. Okay, it will now become what we call a food program.
He employed other tiers of government to replicate federal government agricultural programs. With business news, Alika Okpanachi Arawa.
Many thanks, Alika. We appreciate that. Up ahead, newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli-Ubaja, is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Ere. How are you doing?
Yeah, Chukwudi, good to see you.
Oh, same here, my brother.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good to see the pair again.
Yeah, we have 3 papers here to review. Yeah, you can start.
All right, let's begin with the Punch newspaper this morning. And just below the masthead, we have aggrieved PDP governors demand Tinubu's support in 5 states. The riders, PDP governors concerned about political careers, seek assurance from Tinubu. Ex-Lagos governor to brief party, Akeredolu insists Southern must succeed Buhari. And also among the riders, G5 governors visited Kweremandu in prison, return from UK today. Details of these stories on pages 2 and 12 of the Punch. Just beside the masthead, of course, this is news all over the world that Pelé goes home at 82. And details on page 30. Above the masthead, we have COVID-19 surge. Federal government rules out restricting travelers from China. And the question is why? Because China has over 5,000 cases recorded every day from COVID-19. And next to that, we have Ajaokuta Steel Projects, 500,000 jobs, $1.6 billion annual revenue, and details on page 22 of the Punch. Just below the picture story of the Punch this morning, we have Abuja Court bars DSS others from arresting Emefiele, and you can read up that on page 13. Of course, Mobolali has been in the news since Christmas Day, and we also have it right here on the front page of the Punch this morning. Killer Corp suspended. NBA demands 5 billion naira compensation. The rider, 4 die in Kogi explosion. Police promise probe. Details on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch. And just finally on the front page of the Punch this morning, debts. Telcos seek NCC approval to disconnect banks. Yeah. All right, next.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so let's just quickly move on now to the Daily Sun newspaper before we have the blueprint. The Daily Sun leads with this political story. I'm not perturbed by G5 governor's plots, and that is credited to Atiku. The writer, as PDP says, no decision yet on sanction against Wike others. Details on page 6. And just a bit above that in the strip, we have bandits kill 20 in Bauchi communities. Residents flee. Details on page 6 of the Daily Sun. Just beside the masthead, 4 feared dead in Kogi explosion as Buhari visits. The writer, I'll pursue Ajaokuta Steel issues to conclusion before leaving office. And that's credited to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Beside the picture story of the Daily Sun this morning, we also have a Mobolali here. And of course, the story here is police will work with Lagos Attorney General to prosecute corporates. And that is credited to the IGP. And just below that, we have Ekiti Election Tribunal upholds Oyebanjo's victory. Governor woos opponents. Fayemi Adebayo hail verdict. Below the picture story, we have alleged terrorism. More drama as court bars DSS IGP from arresting Emefiele. Finally, in the black strip at the bottom of the front page of the Daily Sun this morning, we have water project. Consultant accuses Osun Assembly of demanding $5 million bribe. Details on page 27. So that's it from the Daily Sun.
All right, let's now turn to the Blueprint newspaper from top to bottom. Bolanle Rahim, that's the kicker. NBA demands 5 billion naira compensation for slain lawyer's family. No hanky-panky insists Sanwo-Olu, that's the writer to that. It's on page 18 of the Blueprint newspaper. Now, the lead story, Buhari and Ajaokuta Steel Company. APC-led government rescued project from legal disputes with $400 million. The writers to that company to create 5,000 jobs. Of course, I read that in one of the papers. About 1.6 billion dollars annually to be reckoned by that company. Well, Group to Atiku will be wait for your time. Tinubu Shetima train Shaw Road to Villa. All right, urges Nigerians to shun sentiments around Muslim ticket. LP campaign DG Oshintoko remains ZLP candidates. That's according to INEC. All that on page 6 of a Blueprint newspaper. Now on page 5, Clean Energy, Naseni, German firm produce smokeless stoves. 400 distributed to needy women in Nasarawa State. That's in Akwanga as well as in Lafia. Reps vow to unravel facts behind loss of $2.4 billion to illegal crude sale. That's on page 19. Of course, it's world over. Soccer legend Pelé loses battle to colon cancer, passes on at 82. Buhari mourns. That's on page 31. That's a man who almost recreated football. Now, Buhari, Tinubu, Bajabramila, others mourn Ohaneze leader Ubiozo on page 8 and 13. We've resolved over 40 boundary cases in Nigeria. DG MBC, that's National Boundary Commission. When the Tinubu Shetima-led APC team visited Duce Emirates, it's on page 9. Now we will deploy 10,000 recruits for 2023 elections. IGP. Dangote Refinery awards scholarship to 460 students in host communities. It's on page 24. Now let's bring in Chukwudi right away.
Kirian, it's a monofocus for me this morning without bias to what you're going to bring up from your side. A football analyst describes him as electrifying with a penchant for scoring fantastic goals. That's talking about the man we all call Pelé. He actually took that name from the mispronunciation of a goalkeeper's name. The goalkeeper played with his father at a local club. His name was Pelé. It was Pelé's mispronunciation of the man's name that led to his being called Pelé. The real name of Pelé is actually Edson Arantes do Nascimento. And remember, this man took the first World Cup at the age of 17 years. 3-time World Cup winner, 12 goals at the World Cup, 77 international goals for his country. It is a dizzying record for a footballer. He died at the Albert Einstein Israelite Hospital, Sao Paulo. That's in the state of Sao Paulo in Brazil yesterday. He took the coveted trophy in 1958, 1962, and 1970. There is rumor that I'm sorry to recall this chapter of our history, but history is history. There is a rumor that the Nigerian Civil War was stopped briefly in 1970 so that they could watch Pelé. Thereafter, hostilities resumed. I wasn't there. I'm just saying what I was told.
Yeah, and to add to that, he actually made a trip to Nigeria. He was one of those who advocated the end of Nigerian Civil War.
Oh, yes.
They asked him why he made that trip, and he said, look, that Nigeria loves football, and he wanted the war to end so Nigeria can engage in international football in one of his interviews.
That's something I didn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kirian. And we are saying that he scored 77 international goals for his country. He's one of the few players who have scored in 4 World Cup tournaments. I said earlier that he won the World Cup at the age of 17, the first one. The Nascimento family knew as far back as a week ago that their jewel was not going to survive the battle with their colon cancer. As far back as a week ago. So it was actually, he was actually being bade farewell while he too was bidding farewell to the world.
They spent Christmas with him.
They spent Christmas with him. They were all there surrounding him there, at his deathbed.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about Pelé in the course of today's program, really.
I don't know whether he shook hands with the Queen. I know he met the Queen. And that's one rumor I cannot, verify.
Yeah.
Okay? Yes. Finally, before we go to whatever you're throwing up from your side, he actually was named after Edison, the man who invented the incandescent light bulb, the phonograph, and the motion picture camera. Because the parents felt his name was really tall up there in the world, and they wanted their son to be named after a great man. And incidentally, the man became great, if not greater than Thomas Edison himself.
He came from a humble background.
Who's going to tell me what's in a name? Well, I don't know about people who call themselves surplus and abundance, whether it turns out that they... Okay, so what are you bringing from your side?
Yes, well, I think the Bolanle Rahim issue of course, had taken another dimension. Well, because the governor of Lagos State, I expected that before now for him to wade into that. That he's saying that no hanky panky, on the matter, that we're going to follow it to the latter, to serve justice, right to the family. And again, the NBA is demanding a whooping 5 billion naira compensation for this slain lawyer's family. I don't know.
Kirian, one thing that stands out for me is the general response from men at the top in our country's leadership. The general response to the killing of Omobolanle. The president himself has spoken through Shehu Garba, talking about careless handling of weapons. I mean, as a force man, he should know that more than you and me, the Lagos State governor, whom you just mentioned, also has not been found wanting in terms of addressing what is indeed a sordid story. So that language, that body movement from high quarters sends a message, not just to Mobolanle's family as a reassurance, but also to the police force that errant police officers are not going to be allowed to run riot or amok just because they are holding a lethal weapon. I think that should be noted. I thought I should make that point.
Yes, and I also want to quickly mention that besides Omombolale's case, there's a report that actually on December 6th, just before Omombolale's incident, something like that also happened in Lagos, which also involved a policeman from the same police station, where Vandy, who is involved in Omombolale's case, actually happened. I think that it's not just a call to getting justice for this case. I think it's a call to get justice for all other cases that have gone down like this. There are so many cases that were swept under the carpet. I think this should resurrect those stories now. And let us see justice being done. Let's see the policemen being brought out. Let's see them, go to jail or whatever it is, whatever terms it is they will serve, for their actions. I think that will send a strong message. Dealing with just Omobolale's case, in my own opinion, may not send the message to the police force and, to security operatives who, may want to take the laws into their hands, because they may feel, maybe because Omobolale is a lawyer, because maybe of a position, or because of, I think that even the man on the street, the taxi driver, whoever it is that was involved in a case, like this, where a policeman actually erred, justice should be served.
Everyone
so that,
is important.
Yes, everyone that will send, the message clear, to the police officers. Just before we round off, because I can hear that we do not have time, I want to talk about this COVID-19 case, because it's of concern to me. The story this morning is that the federal government rules out restricting travelers from China. And the reports from international media says that over 5,000 people are, tested and confirmed to have COVID-19 in China as at today. On a daily basis, they are running out of spaces for cremation for, the dead as a result of COVID-19. So I'm worried that Nigeria is not trying to restrict or do anything about it, because, we've relaxed sanctions and measures as regards COVID-19, and all of that.
We do not have time. We're being asked to round up. So let me quickly say this.
Just
COVID-19,
seconds, please.
COVID-19 has come and COVID-19 has been dealt with. Maybe part of the bold move is coming from the fact that there's a medication against it now, and that whatever
besides
risk
the medication,
coming,
the US, for example, is trying to resurrect sanctions against people coming from China, just so that they do not have the case.
Well, the story of the US and China picks up some politics somewhere.
Well, let's leave out the politics. I'm just looking at the health of Nigerians, just so we do not.
Which other African nation has banned Chinese travelers? It's not just Nigeria.
We're not talking of banning. Probably maybe carry out a test. Do something. But it's not about you just allow them come in that way. And what our health system is like already. So
let us round up, okay? But what I'm going to add is the fact that COVID-19 has come and gone. Whatever we are seeing now is what we should say when a disease is going. I don't want us to hype anything about COVID-19. Nigeria has relaxed it, and we are watching it. We have medication for it. If it comes, we attack it and stop it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's the spirit we should have. And yes, exactly. If China is having issues, they can resolve it locally. And if we feel that we should also, quarantine people who are coming to Nigeria from China, the authorities should know.
I am with you on that.
But I am one person who doesn't want to respect COVID-19 for any reason. If it comes to deal with it, for me, it's a flu, and we have discovered how to deal with it, and we have to deal with it now, once and for all. That's my own thinking about.
Okay.
So
let's be hopeful. I think I like.
Let's round it up here on any super review, and appreciate once more our friend and colleague, Chukwudi Ubuaja. Thank you once more for
I
being
like
here.
your medical optimism. Thank you for having me, guys.
Okay, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, Friday's edition of your morning show. We're going to be back very shortly after this break.
African beauty on the Gulf of Guinea, blessed with natural landmarks and wildlife reserves. Nigeria, largest economy in Africa. Nigeria, famous accomplishment in entertainment and sports. Nigeria, resourced with globally respected human capital. Our uniqueness lies in our tenacity, our acumen, a testament of success. At NTA, we are forever proud to be the showcase channel of this positive energy and the reflection of the good in our nation. The capacity to tell our nation's story would not have been possible without the support and patronage of the three arms of government: ministries, departments, agencies, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties, and of course you, our esteemed viewers. As we wish you Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, let's get set to make 2023 even greater together.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring an impeccable personality with purposeful leadership, Alhaji Mohammed Meitakobi, the Executive National President of Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria.
In 774 local governments, will be able to put all our structures in everywhere. I'll be able to bring the retail members together, to reconcile them, to come and work for the progress of the association.
Welcome to a world of fun and excitement as we also present an assemblage of professionals in the media space. Some compelling NTA programs, current trends in the fashion world, ICT, sports, entertainment, and lots more. Get a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Crude oil theft, illegal refining of petroleum products, vandalism of pipelines, sea piracy, kidnapping for ransom, militancy, and environmental degradation are amongst the potent threats in the south-south zone of Nigeria. Accordingly, Operation Delta Safe is being conducted in the south-south and parts of the southeast geographical zone to protect the nation's oil and gas industries, which is the mainstay of Nigeria's economy.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news, or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
And this is Good Morning Nigeria, only on NTA Network Service. We are glad that you're still with us up to this moment. And to begin our conversation with our guests, here is a backgrounder packaged by Joseph Olsen on management of ecological funds.
Since 2012, Nigeria has continued to witness devastating flooding with attending consequences. The 2022 experience is described by authorities as the worst in decades, affecting not less than 2.5 million people with property worth billions of naira destroyed. Much of the previous large-scale flooding in Nigeria were attributed to released water from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. But for the 2022 flooding, the federal government says intense rainfall was the major factor. The Ecological Fund project, a federal government special intervention fund established in 1981 through the Federation Account Act 1981, is aimed at addressing the multifarious ecological challenges like flooding and erosions in communities across the country. Larger percentage of the funds goes to states and local governments for construction of canal drainages and roads, as well as other ecological issues as mitigation efforts. But with the nation's soil and water control mechanism failing to hold and control the rising water table due to increasing rainfalls, eyebrows are beginning to rise, questioning effective utilizations of the funds. For instance, in August this year, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, in a statement, challenged states to give account of how they have spent amount in excess of 1 trillion naira allocated to them from the Ecological Fund to tackle floods and other ecological problems. Also, the House of Representatives has since June 2022 launched a probe into the utilization of the fund for the past 10 years.
And because these monies are not used in line with the statutory provision as prescribed by National Assembly.
Reports have it that in 2018, 2.2% of the estimated 9.120 trillion naira budget, amounting to 198 billion naira, was set aside for the Ecological Fund. And in 2019, the 2.2% amount of the budget of 132 billion naira was allocated for the fund, while in the coming 2023, 2.2% of the 21 trillion naira budget, indicating 462 billion naira, is allocated for ecological fund. The questions remain: are managers of ecological funds living up to expectation? Is the project having impact in mitigating ecological challenges? And how are those responsible for monitoring of the project playing their role? These and other related issues will be the focus of the guests on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Joseph, for the background reports and joining us in the studio to discuss the issue. Management of ecological funds is the Permanent Secretary, Ecological Project Office, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Shehu Ibrahim. Many thanks for joining us. Shehu Ibrahim MNI, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Perry.
We also have joining us via Zoom from Lagos, Professor Babajide Alu, a retired distinguished professor of chemistry from the University of Lagos, Akoka, Lagos. He's also the former Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics and Research, University of Lagos, and former National President, Nigerian Environmental Society. Professor Lo is an international consultant to the UN Environment Program, UNEP, UNIDO, and a consultant to the Federal Ministry of Environment, NESRA, Lagos State Ministry of Environment, and of course, so many more. It's a pleasure to have you, Prof.
It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you.
We also have Dr. Idowu Salau, who is in our Lagos studio. He's an environmental management expert and consultant to the World Bank on waste management issues. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria, Doctor.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes. All right, gentlemen. It's indeed nice to have you with us this morning to discuss a very important topic, management of ecological fund. By my understanding, ecological fund is an intervention mechanism developed by government to address natural disasters that tend to devastate the ecology, or in other words, the environment, namely gully erosion, flooding, desertification, and of course man-made deforestation and what have you. But over the years, Nigerians are actually distasteful of what has happened to the ecological fund in terms of how these funds are deployed for the reasons it was meant. And let me bring in, first of all, the Permanent Secretary, Ecological Project Office, Shehu Ibrahim MNI, to give us an insight into ecological fund and its disbursement.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Kiran. Good morning, Perry. I think your background gave a very good, outlay of what the fund is all about. And to start with, I would want to say that I will commiserate with Nigerians, first of all, over the recent devastating flooding, the loss of lives and livelihood, and the impact it had on all of us as a people. Then secondly, I would want to also inform Nigerians that ecological fund, just as was given at in the background, is creation of a law. The FAC Act of 1981 created that fund. And the fund is supposed to be shared between the federal government, the states, and the local governments, including the FCT area councils. But the FCT as a territory is not part of the sharing. So it's 2.32% of accruals into federation account monthly. So whatever accrued into federation account monthly, 2.32% is set aside, to manage particularly for this fund. Out of this 3.2%, 0.72% is given to the states, all the 36 states of the federation. 0.72 is given to them, while 0.60 is given to all the local governments. And the federal government retains 1%. Out of the 1% of the federal government, there are also some agencies of federal government that, by virtue of the Establishment Acts, also get some allocation from that 1%. So out of the 1%, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, gets 20% out of the 1% of the federal government. And the NALDA, National Agricultural Land Development Agency, also takes 10% from that 1% of federal government. The Northeast Development Commission also takes another 10% from that federal government allocation. And also the National Agency for the Great Green Wall takes 5%. So 45% out of that 1% is given to all these agencies by virtue of the Establishment Act. So what remains to the federal government as Ecological Project Office is 55%. And that's what we manage. As an office, we have a structure.
And the structure is that there is a ecological project management committee, which is chaired by the Secretary to the Government of Federation. The permanent secretary is the secretary member, and then the other management staff of ecological project office are the members. This is the body that advises the president on the utilization of the remaining 55% of the federal government share of that particular fund.
All right, many thanks, Sheikhu Ibrahim, for that explanation of you know, how the money trickles down. But I would like to quickly bring in Professor Babajide Alo. This is your area of expertise. You have followed development in the country for a long time. Would you say that the ecological fund is being effectively used in this country?
Thank you very much. It's quite difficult to say that ecological funds, which have been rightly assigned, rightly allocated by law, are being effectively utilized. In the sense that the ecological fund allocated to states sometimes are misapplied, sometimes are not being correctly applied for solving environmental and ecological problems. And this is where we need more monitoring and more supervision, because it's an intervention fund. An intervention fund means that it's supposed to solve basic environmental problems, basic ecological problems for the teeming millions of Nigerians. The last flooding, bad flooding that we had, which obviously came from excessive rainfall that happened in the country, the rainfall that came in this year was beyond what even NIMET, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, expected. And therefore, the fund is now to come in and intervene and assist the teeming millions of Nigerians who lost property, who lost farmlands, who lost lives, with some mitigation effect on them. But of course, the Ecological Project Office has projects all over, and they're doing well with those projects. But is it reaching the teeming populations? That's where the question is, and that's where we say we're suggesting as environmentalists to say we need more monitoring, we need more effective implementation of the funds at the local level, at the state level. We do not want a situation where we find that the money is misapplied. It's sent to solve other problems in the states or other problems at the local government instead of being applied directly to ecological and environmental problems. These problems can never abate. These problems will keep coming. Environmental issues are issues which you have no control about. They are inevitable. And therefore, that's why the fund has been set up as a standby fund. So as soon as these things happen, then NEMA, or Environmental Management Agency, and other bodies in charge can have funds to immediately intervene with the people. So overall, I would say we need more monitoring. We need more, particularly at the state and local government levels, how the funds are applied.
All right. Thank you indeed. And we go to Lagos studio where we have Dr. Ido Salau. Of course, he's a management expert, environmental management expert. Dr. Salau, well, you've listened to our first speakers who actually dwelt on the establishment of ecological fund and its utilization. But I want you to go beyond that, or perhaps give us another perspective to your understanding of how ecological fund is utilized in Nigeria. And going beyond that, I mean, is for you to look beyond just an ecological fund establishment, but look at the intricacies of its deployment for the services it was provided for. in the states and council areas. You are an environmental expert, and I want to believe that you may have data of what has gone down in terms of the application of ecological funds by the agencies concerned and the state authorities in terms of the implementation.
Thank you for this question. I will want to look at it for this question in another perspective. The problem we are having about disbursement of ecological fund is that Professor Alora have just dwelled with on one of it, is that the monitoring and who is supervising the disbursement of this money and the application of this money to project that is being targeted for. And that is where I am concerned, because I have participated in some ecological projects in Nigeria and I can give data. And from the data I will give you the one that that participated in Ilorin Kwara State. It was a purely ecological project. And that is where the issue of funding, because there is no way you want to talk about ameliorating ecological project without adequate funding being put in place. The little we are having from Ecological Fund Office, I'm not sure is enough. And I'll give you an example. The dredging of Asa River in Ilorin was executed by Ecological Fund in 2013. The entire Asa River, it covers about 10 point something kilometers. The phase 1 of that project was just about 2.3 kilometer dredging and construction of concrete embankment. It cost 1.23 billion naira to do that. The second phase is ongoing, and that's in a particular state. And if you look at the data, the permanent secretary in terms of fund release, and we have 36 states and FCT, and we have agency of government that have access to this ecological fund. If one particular state is being given phase 1, phase 2, the second phase is about 1.6 billion of the dredging of Asa River. So we are talking about 2.7 for one state. And in a particular year, maybe 160 something billion naira. So how will that be able to tackle ecological problem in terms of maybe ameliorating most of these major challenges that we are having? And we have all these major challenges in all the 6 geopolitical zones. The Niger Delta, they have serious oil pollution. In the northeast, we have the shrinking of Lake Chad. If you want to recharge Lake Chad, which has shrunk up to about 10% now from its original 100%, that means 90% of Lake Chad has dried up. And there, the amount of money you will use to do a kind of moving water from where you have excess water to the Lake Chad, you can see the amount of money that it will require. So my own point of view about the management and of the ecological fund is that it is not enough. We should look for more in terms of increasing, but before we do that, we need to rejig that office called Ecological Fund Office. In the first instance, they changed the name from Ecological Fund Office, which is an intervention office, to Ecological Project Office. Now they are awarding contract. Before, they used to disburse that money out, even the little one that, the 1% that is accrued to federal government. Let's assume the states have gotten their own share. And it's because lack of monitoring and supervision. That's why a governor will go and use a ecological fund to do a political campaign. I think one governor was guilty of that of recent in the past. And my own point of view is that if we reject the ecological fund office, let's look at the way forward in other climes. How do they utilize this money? There is a need to bring in the private sector to support the public sector in the management of it. And I'll give you an example, because if you see, the climate change is now in the Bunsen burner of the world discourse now, the climate change issue. And money is now being appropriated, is now being a mark to tackle climate change worldwide. And we have African Development Bank even to coming into it. So if we want to really do and want to maybe have easy access, and that people will know that, yeah, justice is being done in terms of release of this fund to to ameliorate ecological problem, I will suggest that we should have a special bank like what we have, like mortgage bank, agricultural bank. Maybe a bank should come out from ecological fund through the ecological fund office that will be managed by both public sector and private sector to target ecological problem nationwide. Now we are having green economy and blue economy. That is what is trending now in the environmental business. Housing scheme is going on. We're having energy problem. We can ask those who are constructing housing estates to remove the housing estate from the national grid, and we can use renewable energy source to generate electricity for housing scheme from the ecological bank, and they can have access to the green bank, and that is sustainable because those that will manage the bank will be able to lend the private sector the money to tackle that. Again, waste management problem in cities, major city in Nigeria. We have example of Lagos, more than 1,000 PSP, private sector. They need money. They have to go to private bank to source for the money. But if there is a special bank that is coming out from ecological fund office, from the ecological fund, that will be used to target ecological problem, and private sector will be able to access it. Whatever gain, whatever profit the bank is generating can be used as grant to assist or to do other ecological problem. And that is different from what the government is doing. So that is my own view of point in terms of, because I'm a field man, as a consultant, I've accessed this ecological fund office before for projects through some states, and I know how it's being disbursed. And let me give you an example again. The Bar Beach, not far from where I am. In those days, Lagos State had benefited from ecological fund, at least Bar Beach restoration of the coastline of Bar Beach in 2003, 2004, close to about 6 billion naira sunk into it. But the visionary government in Lagos then look at it that we cannot be burying money in the ocean, and they took the advantage by bringing in private sector to develop the Eco Atlantic. Now fund is being through the private sector, fund is coming in. Problem of ocean surge in Atlantic in Bar Beach has solved. The place is now becoming a prime area where embassies everywhere, everybody is now buying land. These are the kind of things we should be looking into, not to be giving arms to state and they will mismanage it. That is my own opinion. That's my own suggestion for now.
Thank you so much. You have actually mentioned so many issues, just like Professor Babajide also talked about. So I would like the permanent secretary to quickly respond to, some of the issues. It is clear that there are issues. What really, from your own point, you're the permanent secretary of the Ecological Project Office. You know what the challenges are. Yes. Could you please, respond to some of these issues and tell us what the challenge is from your own point?
Yes. Thank you very much once more. I think it's also important to say that Nigeria seems to have more confidence, at management of the fund at the federal level, because there's a structure that you can see, there's a structure that you can approach, there's a structure that you can make requests to. In our office daily, we receive several requests from Nigerians, individuals, communities, traditional rulers, institutions, regarding different aspects of erosion issue, flood control, pollution, issue of, even coastal management and things like that. Presently at our data bank, we have more than 3,000, so requests that we receive, and daily we receive such requests. We have a structure in place that we, always attend to people. We also have a standard operating procedure at the office. As a community, you can always write to tell us what your problems are. And when you write to us, there are certain expectations also from you. For example, you have to tell us the nature of the problem, give us some pictorials. You have to give us like some drawings to show the real technical nature of what of the problems, and then we'll try to guide you further. There are certain requests we receive where they don't know about these particular requirements, So in such requests, we usually give them, like a guide on what are the expectations. As I've said, after receiving the request, we look at the request, and then we now employ you to, first of all, now bring the engineering designs of that particular area, that you want us to intervene. You give us the pictorials so that we can really see it, on the ground. And then I also give us like the BEMI, that is the Bill of Engineering Measurement and Evaluations. And then when we look at it in the office, we now capture it in a data bank. From what we have seen, now we also send our own engineers to go to such places and also do some verification. And then by the time we have it, now we come and keep it in our data bank. When we come, to in our project, intervention circle, we bring out such information, we process it, and then as a committee, we sit down and we advise, Mr. President on what needs to be done. As an office, presently, we have intervened in more than 303 projects. We have already done even a compendium, to show to show people that it is visible, it is verifiable, it is there for everybody to see. And what we have done from that compendium is to, first of all, have a pictures of the that's before our intervention, how the place looks like. And then while ongoing interventions go, we also have some records of that thing. And then by the time we're through with the project, we also have such, pictorials. Another thing is that we always carry the community along whatever we do. If any project is going on, the benefiting committee is also part and parcel of all decisions concerning that particular project. The contractor, the consultant, the projects are all, coming together with other stakeholders, always agree, engage, and try to manage so that the expectations of the community will be met.
Look, Permanent Secretary,
Yes.
there are things I want to clear, really,
Okay.
There are issues Dr. Salah raised with respect to the nomenclature of your establishment.
Yes.
So it used to be Ecological Fund Office, and now it has become Ecological Project Office.
Yes.
So we need to know the distinction between the two, because it may reflect in your operations, in your functionalities.
Definitely.
Right. So that's why he mentioned that you people are now engaged in awarding contracts, doing
yes.
projects,
Yes.
directly applying instead of just distributing the money. And if what you explained after an in-read question is what we can go by, which means that you also partake in direct, use of the fund in terms of coming to rescue communities and what have you. But I had thought that you distribute the money to states. You have explained to us the percentage,
Yes.
in terms of distribution to state, to agencies and what have you. So is your office now directly involved in spending this fund?
Okay, prior to 2021, there has been this misconception about what that particular office is, because the nomenclature used to be Ecological Fund Office. So the public, were thinking that there is a particular fund, pool of fund that the office is keeping or managing. But it became necessary by 2021, through a circular that was issued by the SGF to change, after presidential approval, that name of that particular office from Ecological Fund to Ecological Project Office. It's very important to tell Nigerians that the accruals, that monthly accruals I've explained earlier, that 2.32%, that fund is in the Federal Ministry of Finance, not with our office. And monthly, when Federal Ministry of Finance is doing the federation allocation meeting, all these things are shared. So the federal government shared is kept in the Federal Ministry of Finance. The Federal Ministry of Finance also disbursed to the states directly. They also disburse to the local governments directly. In fact, even all these agencies that I mentioned that are also taking a part, from the federal government's 1% share, also get their disbursement directly from the Federal Ministry of Finance. So as an office, we only manage the 55% that is remaining with us. And we only deal with requests of the public and then execute projects. But we don't have any fund that we manage as a fund.
Okay. Yes, I will stay with you. You don't have any funds that you manage.
Yes.
You get 55%, and you said you get requests from communities and all of that.
Yes.
Now the question is, what fund do you use in executing such projects? Because you're also disbursing money to those communities, or rather to those local governments where those communities are, or states and all of that. So if you are, part of projects in certain communities, what funds are you using? Is it what is given to those states or local government, or your own share of the fund?
That is irony. The problem is, it is just that 55% out of the 1% of federal government that is used for all these projects I've talked about. What we do is that we cover the whole 6 geopolitical zones. Anytime we do an intervention, we go to all the 6 geopolitical zones. And at a time, we go to states, 2 states per zones. So it is that same 55% that is left for the office to manage that is being utilized for all these projects.
So who checks what the states receive and how it is used?
That's a constitutional issue. It's a subnational. We cannot be able to go in and start asking about how they, disburse or utilize their own fund.
Okay, and that's exactly why we are going to Professor Babajide Alo, who earlier, reminded us that the utilization of ecological funds by the subnationals is not something to write home about. And sir, I would like you to speak your mind based on the explanation of the permanent secretary here, with respect to the nomenclature of the establishment and all the projects that he said that the office is also assisting communities to carry out as against the disbursement, which originally, people believed, the office was created.
Yes, I listened carefully to the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary seems to have his hands tied by the law establishing the office, in the sense that I heard carefully now that the EPO, the Ecological Project Office, as it's called, intervenes directly in some projects at the local government and state levels. Well, this is, and they're doing it because he was asked where is that money from, and he says it's from the 1% of the federal government. This is quite unfortunate. We leave the states to spend their own share the way they want. Then the Ecological Project Office from Abuja still uses from the federal government money to intervene. So the question then is, the one allocated to the states, how is it utilized? The Ecological Project Office seem not to be able to reach out and find out what they're doing with that. This is where I was saying that we probably need to rejig. I mean, using Dr. Salau's excellent words there, that we need to rejig how the funds are utilized. I mean, I'm not too comfortable that we had to change the name of the office from Ecological Fund Office to Ecological Projects Office. I mean, we have a corollary. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund is a fund. That is TED Fund, is a fund and has remained a fund. The funds from that office, the law establishing that office may be different from that of the Ecological Fund Office, does not, I mean, allows that office, the TED Fund, to directly intervene in tertiary education, for all the universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. But the Ecological Project Office funds somehow gets to the states and disappears there. So we need a way by which, even if it requires criminalizing, I mean, permit me the use of that word, of misapplication. Because the ordinary man down in the local areas and the states, they need to feel the presence of this. We are quite comfortable, and we salute the Ecological Project Office for completing almost more than 200 projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Good. But we need more, just like Dr. Salau said. 200 projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. There are ecological problems almost on a daily basis. There are environmental problems almost on a daily basis. Climate change, we cannot do away with it. Climate change continues to inflict all kinds of different problems on our people. And these problems need to be mitigated. These problems need to be solved. We need adaptation projects. We need to get our people to be able to adapt to the unforeseen climate change. Waste management, as Dr. Salau rightly said, is one huge problem across this country. and it's an ecological problem, whether we like it or not. Poor waste management is affecting our health. We have data, we have information to show that poor waste management has a good nexus with e-health of our people. We find our people falling ill, we find our people coming down with all kinds of diseases purely because of poor waste management. So I will not shy away from repeating that we need to have a way by which we can intervene, not only intervene, monitor the interventions that are going on with the money that is coming from the ecological project, ecological fund. That's why I read in the papers a few days ago that a member of the National Assembly House of Rep, I think the name is Chief Obidebu, the Vice Chairman of the Environment Committee of the House, is suggesting that we need to have an intervention commission. He seems to not to want to agree that there is an ecological project office. He's again suggesting that we have an ecological intervention commission, meaning that he wants to be able to have a way by which we can monitor the money going down to the states, so that we would then have our people feel this presence. That's why it's appearing as if the ecological project office is not doing anything, but they're actually working. But the work needs to be monitored in some way, some manner in which the people will feel the presence of the fund in changing things in their life. I mean, those who have been ravaged by the floods now, they are being assisted in some way, in some manner, but we need more impact from the money for the people to feel it a lot more.
Thank you, Professor Alo. I'll quickly go to Dr. Salau now. It is clear from comments made so far that the funds disbursed to states and local governments, something is wrong somewhere. But I also know that you mentioned earlier when you spoke that the ecological fund is not enough. If it is not enough, and we cannot even see what is happening with, the little that is, in your own opinion now, that is being given to the state and local government, why do you think we should, give more funds to whether the EPO or the state and local government? That's on one hand. And secondly, what about the agencies that also get a share of this fund? Do you think they're doing enough? Because, from what the permanent secretary said, the National Agency for the Great Green Wall, the Northeast Development Commission, the National Agriculture and Land Development Authority, NEMA, they all get something from this ecological fund. Do you think these agencies are living up to expectation?
Thank you. The first question is about, I'm asking for more for ecological from the Ecological Fund Office. But before that will take place, I think we should put instrument of intervention. We should maybe amend the instrument of intervention that we monitor the disbursement and the execution of this project. Professor Allo referred to one legislator asking for commission. Yes, commission may be all right, but I still look at commission as chop for the boys. Well, fine. Maybe we have had so many commissions. NDDC is a commission, Northeast Development Commission is there. They are all doing one project or the other, but repeating projects. That's one. Who is monitoring them? That is the task that the National Assembly should focus. If they are going to be an act, or they are going to be a law again now, to change the nomenclature in the 1% for that of the one that accrue to federal government, because the federal government, on the most serious one, let's give it to them. The one Ecological Fund Office are doing, they monitor the execution of the project. The state-owned and the local government is what I cannot talk about. The one, because I have worked with Ecological Fund Office at federal level, and I know that they have enough consultants to monitor. They have the modus of operandi of how they maybe call for procurement for this project is another thing entirely, because most of the ecological projects, if it's been advertised, I'm not sure of this and no more. Before they used to advertise, Now, I think selective tendering is what they are doing. That area, we need to look into that so that more people, genuine and competent people, can come in and participate. And that's where the legislator needs to come in. Why is it that most of the project coming from office of the Ecological Fund Office or project office is selective tendering? There's politics in that area. We need to check that before we ask for more funding. One of my major reasons why I'm asking for more funding for the office is because we are having a lot of challenges, direct, indirect. The flood that we just experienced now, secondary effect of the flooding now is what we'll be facing, and that is health, economy, and others. And these are projects that are enormous, that small money that cannot even tackle it. The money available cannot tackle it. So we need to call for more funding, but not through the commission. And that's why I said, if there is going to be a specialized bank through legislation that will be given approval by president, and that specialized bank will be used to fund most of ecological programs that are privately inclined in nature, that monitoring will be easier. In that, if more funding is going to come in, how much do we need to start to establish a bank in Nigeria? If we use that 51% accrued to federal government to establish the maybe Green Bank or Ecological Bank of Nigeria, because that is how it's been done in China, in China and India and Bangladesh. They have a special bank that execute majorly ecological projects that are privately inclined. Now, ecological problems now are now being given a kind of new dimension. We call city resilience project. We talk of green energy, green economy project, blue economy project. I'll give you an example of dredging of River Niger. River Niger is about about 10,000 kilometers with its tributary. The dredging of just from Lokoja to Baro, do you know how much is been sunk in that? Through the Ecological Fund Office. When President Jonathan came in as a president, the first thing he did was to do dredging and reclamation of Otueke shoreline. Billions of naira were awarded, were given to that project. It was monitored. But when flood came now, because they didn't finish the other side, flood came in through another area. So it must be a continuous project, and it involves a lot of money. That's for that. For the agencies that are having access to ecological, like Great Green Wall, Northeast Development Commission, and the land agricultural other one that are having access to it, I think they advertise their own project. They advertise their own project. Procurement procedure is being followed. Award is being done, and I think the office, if they are monitoring it, because I know a couple of my friends who are consultants have done project for Northeast Development Commission and Great Green Wall. So we need the National Assembly not just to look at commission level. They should look at how we can transform this fund into something that will be privately oriented and publicly. Maybe we include public sector and private sector together to solve some of it that are that could be tackled through private sector. Then government owned could be done through local government, because federal government has no territory. They are just spending that money based on political request from friends and those that are close to power. So why will federal government will come and execute projects in Apado, in Ilorin East local government, when Kwara State government is having access to ecological fund from their own allocation? So let's look at what the state government has, what are they doing with their own fund? Can't they too set aside percentage of that money in their state remove it from the revenue, accrued revenue allocation to the state, and they are not just using it for general execution of projects. So let us see how much you have from federal government as ecological fund revenue, fund that accrue to your state, put it in a special account, and ask local government to come up with their own ecological challenges and use it. Because I can imagine in Ilesha, a lot of problem is going on now because of the gold mine that is going on in Osun. Illegal mining sites are there. They are now happening. We are now having illegal mining sites in Zamfara, in Osun, because of the illegal miners. That become ecological problems later.
All right, Dr. Salau. I like it where you are preferring solutions to this. You know, you mentioned ecological bank, you know, which for me is also a good idea. But you know, in Nigeria, we'll deal with laws. So we have laws and regulations. And in some cases, we tend to respect the law more than the desire to have the law in the first place. Now, let's return to PAMSEC. PAMSEC, you know, Dr. Salahu raised a number of pertinent issues concerning your office and your operational methodology. Now, you distribute or disburse monies to different strata of government as well as the agencies. You also partake in direct intervention, by accepting to carry out projects in communities across Nigeria. And now one wonders, you know, what is now the essence of a disbursement of ecological funds to other levels of government? What is the monitoring mechanism established, even by the law establishing your office? Is there no department that is responsible for monitoring the disbursement and the application of the monies disbursed? Because under normal circumstances, one would think that, look, if I'm disbursing a fund, I should be able to now know, track the fund and see what the fund is used for. Is it normal to just have an office that disburses funds and does not have the capacity or in fact law backing it to monitor how the money is utilized?
Well, thank you very much. Once more, let me also repeat it that we don't disburse funds as an office.
But we recommend.
We don't, as I've said, the ones going to the subnationals, the states and local governments, is already by virtue of the law. It's a constitutional thing. The ones going to the agencies within the federal government is by virtue of the establishment.
What role does your office play in the disbursement of funds to agencies and other levels of government? What is the direct role that you play? You say you don't disburse,
yes,
but you are ecological project office.
Yes.
You used to be ecological fund office.
Yes. So, as I've said, let me also say it again. As an office, we are only concerned with the accruals to us. That is the 55% out of the 1%. So, all other agencies go to finance and directly, get their allocations. So, both the states, as I've said, states and local governments, monthly, when this FAC is meeting, they get the allocation directly. And then the other agencies of federal government, by the time the 1% of federal government is also in federal government's account, they also apply directly to finance and also get their allocations. So as an office, where I will monitor, we have a robust mechanism, monitoring and evaluation of our own fund and this and that. And we have different layers. The first one is at the community level, as I've said. Projects, the communities are totally involved, from the beginning of the project to the end. They are part of the stakeholders. They are engaged at every stage. And if there are issues with the, execution of the projects, they have access directly to our office, to complain. Secondly, we are also working with the private sector through consultants. We have consultants that are also appointed to also monitor the projects. So that's another second layer, of our own monitoring. The third layer is the office itself. We have our units within the office that also go out to do direct monitoring of such projects. We also have another fourth layer. That's various auditors, from the internal auditors to the federal auditors, and different, audit outfits, from the Office of Accountant General to the Office of Attorney General, all are there. And then ultimately, the National Assembly also oversights, all the projects that are executed and whatever we do as an office.
All right, thank you, Permanent Secretary. Of course, we'll continue the conversation. Let's take a break now.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes, and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal, and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, rise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
The occasion gives cause for reflection and reminds us of the sacrifice made by our armed forces in preserving the unity of the country.
All ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal launch. Send your donations to these accounts. Account name, Emblem Appeal Launch. Account number 393-200-7526. EcoBank Nigeria PLC.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within, and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest. To ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
The security situation in Nigeria has been reasonably stable in spite of activities of unpatriotic elements engaged in various criminal activities around the country. Daily situation reports coming in from states. 2 months ago, it has shown relative peace on many of our highways, such as Abuja, Kaduna Birnin Gwari, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And the topic for discussion this morning is the management of the Ecological Fund. And our guests are still with us. I would quickly start with Professor Alo now. We've talked about the issues, there are actually so many issues, and from what the permanent secretary has said, some of these issues are beyond, his office and that of the Ecological Project Office, and some ways we can solve this problem has also been mentioned, of course, by Dr. Salau and also by you. But, my thinking is, this issue as regards the Ecological Fund, do you think that we could better impact on the lives of Nigerians if we think of ways to prevent ecological problems rather than focusing on how to solve them when they arise? For example, the flood issue, let's use that as an example. Right now we're in the dry season. Instead of sitting and folding our hands and saying we have ecological fund and waiting for the flood to hit us again in 2023 and then looking out of ways to come out of it, why don't we seek ways now to solve the problem? Just so that Nigeria, because at the end of the day, Nigerians are the receiving end of all this. Whether the states get to use the money rightly, whether the EPO is doing the right thing or not, I mean, the average person on the street, the average Nigerian suffers from this. So do you think that there'll be more impact of this fund if we concentrate on preventing issues than solving the problems?
Certainly, thank you so much. I share your thoughts, and I think I agree with you that, I mean, for any issue, particularly, preventive measures are much better than curative measures at any point in life. We are beginning to see that the Ecological Project Office, as it's called, is handicapped by law, is handicapped by structure, is handicapped. That one wants to now start thinking that we probably need to, and I mean, it's not rocket science to manage ecological funds, but the way we are structured now in the Ecological Project Office has handicaps. That one begins to suggest that maybe we're at the point now where we need a full-fledged commission, a full-fledged agency, not sitting in the office of the Secretary to Government of the Federation, but stand alone, which would have more powers. Of course, this will return back to the National Assembly, because the National Assembly Act is what established the Ecological Fund Office as it is now. We need something more elaborate, stronger, because the ecological problems would not abate. I mean, it's natural effects that we are seeing. Therefore, and such an agency now will start tackling issues from a preventive measure rather than a curative measure, rather than the firefighting approach which we follow. As soon as the next flood happens, we start running around, putting money here, putting money there. Whereas if we have a structured approach in which we would have preventive measures set up before we even start. So I will go for the fact that maybe we need to remodel the Ecological Project Office into an agency. We have an example of an intervention agency that is working well in TED Fund, intervening in tertiary institutions. Why don't we approach that line? Then there are several models across the world. I mean, we have information as to how it's managed in countries, in other African countries, in countries outside Africa. We can use those models to establish ours so that we have a proper intervention agency that will start setting up preventive measures. So that our people don't get faced with these problems on an annual basis. We can, for example, think of how we can abate floods before they happen. Part of why we see these floods ravaging our people is because all the canals are blocked, all the places where water should ordinarily flow through. Maybe some of the rivers need to be dredged. These are all the preventive measures that ought to take place to prevent a reoccurrence on an annual basis as we are seeing them. We also talk about, and the Ecological Project Office has a responsibility to, even for ocean area management, apart from desertification in the north.
Everybody.
There is oceanification, as you said, in the
No,
south.
now.
Let's such an agency will intervene in preventive manner. It will build dikes that will prevent villages in the coastal areas from being ravaged, from being flooded. So all of these are necessary. So I agree with you that maybe we should tackle the issue from
Professor Allo, thank you. Indeed, we indeed appreciate your contribution. My colleague asked a very pertinent question that has to do with the issue of mitigation. And annually, agencies like NIMET and the Hydrological Agency will always come up with their predictions of how the rains will behave in a year and how the floods will go. They're even specific about the areas concerned. Yet, no mitigation effort is made, especially at the state level and local government level. Thank you indeed for being our guest this morning, Professor Babajide Allo, a retired distinguished professor of chemistry from the University of Lagos, Akoka. Thank you once again for being here this morning. We hope to re-invite you again when next you have this kind of a topic on Good Morning Nigeria. All right, let's return to Lagos and what will appear to be your final comment, Dr. Salau. You've preferred solutions in some of your comments right away. What should be the proper position of things if you're asked to do a blueprint on ecological project office, what it should be all about? Very briefly.
Before I go into that, I just want to support Professor Allo for his own last comment about the preventive measure that we need to take before the next year flooding will happen. That's what we call flood risk management plan. Under flood risk management plan, there are 4 phases. We have prediction, we have preparedness, we have mitigation, and we have the last phase, which is like response. Now, right now, I believe Ecological Fund Office should call its consultants out to start going to states affected by the flood, in this recent flood, and start taking for us to do post-impact management assessment of the flood, so that we can have data. What is the quantity of rainfall that we have? How come we cannot? Maybe manage the excess flood? Because it's been given worldwide that from research that you can use flood water to do irrigation. These are projects they can embark upon. We can take water from excess area to where there is no water. So that's one area. For my own opinion about maybe how to reshape, how to rejig the Ecological Fund Office, I still want them to, maybe the National Assembly need to go into the table now, just to maybe go back to drawing table and try to look at ways and means that we are suggesting now in terms of private sector, public sector coming together. The TED Fund suggestion of Professor Allo, my own suggestion of private sector, where we can have a private bank from the federal government accrued revenue for the ecological because we have federal mortgage bank, we have agricultural bank, we can have ecological bank, so that one will be targeted towards private sector. Because private sector.
All right, Dr. Salau, thank you so much. Of course, you have actually mentioned some of the ways that we can solve this problem. But because of time, we cannot continue. We'll leave it at that point. Some other time we would, of course, deal with this topic again. So quickly, just for the Permanent Secretary to round off this conversation, Shehu Ibrahim, MNI, what are your final thoughts? How do you think we can solve this problem so that Nigerians would actually feel the impact of this fund?
Okay. First of all, I want to state that the operations of ecological project is such that we collaborate with other regulatory government agencies. For example, in terms of our procurement, we work with the BPP and strictly follow the Procurement Act. In terms of other requirements like environmental impact assessment, we work with environment, necessary and co. Secondly, Recently, the government federal government set up a presidential committee on flood control. That committee, were also a member on that committee, headed by the Honorable Minister of Water Resources. That committee has been given a TOR to come out with a comprehensive master plan on how to address the issue of flooding and other, ecological problems across the country.
All right. Thank you so much, Sheikh Ibrahim, MNI, Permanent Secretary, Ecological Project Office. Thank you for joining us for this conversation this morning. We're glad that you could join us. Of course, Professor Babajide Alo, thank you so much for your time. And we also want to appreciate Dr. Idowu Salau for being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria today. Now, the program is still Good Morning Nigeria, and from here we'll go over to our sports desk where Butawa Miller is on, top of issues as regards our second conversation this morning.